Okay, I think I'm about as ready as I'm going to get. Hello, good evening, hello. Whew, how's it going? I wasn't expecting to stream this week because I have been busy panicking and stressing out and studying for a big ol' exam, but I figured since I have time this evening, since my wife's playing D&D with her friends, she rescheduled for tonight, I figured what the heck, why not? I'm not really doing anything else. I'm going to be painting anyway, so I might as well, you know, paint and stream, I guess. This was an experience trying to get logged in. I've spent the last half hour fighting with a webcam app because it just randomly decides when it actually wants to activate and when it just wants to, tell me that it can't find my phone. So now that I'm done with that, I can go ahead and get started. So, I've been kind of in a weird place with the painting recently, because I've done a whole bunch of, hey, how's it going? How's it going, Arya? How's it going? I've done a whole bunch of different things, and I just keep finding myself wanting to go back and paint some of my Imperial Fist guys up. So, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I repainted Garadon a little while ago to make him more contrasty, and I don't like how he turned out. So I completely stripped him down using some 91% IPA. I was just about to start his hobby stream. For a minute I thought you guys were collabing. No, that hasn't happened yet, and I'm not really sure how to do that. And I wasn't planning on streaming until about a half hour ago, and then I just got into like a fist fight with my webcam program. So I'm on much later than I expected to be. But that's cool. I'm glad that he's doing his thing too. But yeah, I started working on Garadon again, and I have basically thrown away his old base. It's pretty useless at this point, because it's all kinds of hecked up. This was his old base where, he stood on the thing, and I actually don't like it that much. I think that the rock facade looks kind of goofy. So, I went ahead and made a custom base using magnets and corkboard. And it's actually, I think that's a 50mm base, and I magnetized it so that I can have a game base for him, and I can just kind of slide it back in there, and there we go. Yeah, and all I did was I have these metal discs and these magnets on the bottom of them, and that's what allows me to transport it in, like, a case that isn't foam, and also allows me to do cool stuff like that. So as soon as I finish painting him up, I can put him on that and give it a couple more, things to make it pop, because right now it's just kind of asphalt. But this is where I am right now, and that's a lot like Gabriel Seth's model, I think. Yeah, they have, I know that I think the first time I saw the display base to go with the regular base was on, like, Rogel Dorn. And I thought that was really cool, so I've been trying to replicate it. And obviously I don't have sculpts to do that with, so I've just been making it out of things. But this is where I am right now with Garadon. And he's gonna be really orange with some really yellow highlights, because I'm following a tutorial that was set up by Jose Da Vinci, who is way, way above my current skill level. But I figure that I personally can't get any better if I don't try and replicate, the people who are really good. But yeah, the first time I did that display base, I did it for not a commission piece, but like a this is what my commissions look like piece. Which was actually a while ago, but I think it turned out okay. So I made this wizard, and he was supposed to show like what a high quality piece from me looks like. And I think he turned out pretty good for the time. His face looks really good. I tried my best to do some highlighting and some blending, and I just thought it was really neat that I gave him this little display plinth. Nothing too great, and now that I'm a lot better at it, I can definitely do better, so I plan on it, but, you gotta start somewhere. So I'm happy that those skills have been useful. But yeah, so all I'm doing with him is trying to get some of these blends as pretty as I can. Just so that, I can make him be like a display quality model. So I wasn't able to finish watching your stream. How did your model end up turning out? Because it looked really darn good from what I could see. But then I stopped really being able to watch it because I had other things that kind of started pulling at my attention. So the last time I saw, you were working on, like, the underbelly. Alariel's off to a decent start? Well, that's good. That's good to know. Long way to go. Yeah, that's a big honkin' model. I couldn't imagine trying to finish that all in one night. But I'm glad it's moving along in a way that's making you happy. So I've got to do something with this guy that I'm not very good at and I'm trying to get better at, and that is blending. I don't know if you've ever had to try and do like the super creamy smooth blends between colors for transitions, but I'm really not good at it. So this was another reason for me to want to work on him, was to get better, get more practice at doing some of that stuff. And that's actually one of the reasons why when I try and work on these guys, I don't stream too much. You cannot blend to save your life. It's one of those skills that you gotta keep, I mean, at least for me, it's been one of those skills where I've got to keep headbutting the wall until eventually I get it, I guess. Because that's what it's been. Making sure that I'm using a really good brush and making sure that I'm regulating the like moisture content on the Mini has been really helpful for learning how to blend. For Diablo Core Sword, I use glazing. Yeah, see, I can't glaze to save my life. Glazing is a huge part of blending, and I'm really bad at it. So, honestly, if you're doing that, then you're already a step ahead of me. Because to my understanding, that's the way to go, is to like glaze everything. The other way I've heard to do it is stippling, which I'm also not good with, and is murder on your brushes, so I try not to do it. But through constant failures and attempts, I'm kind of learning that the way that you blend is with best to use an older brush for the stippling. Yeah. That's my understanding, is you want to make sure you don't want to use one of your nicer brushes when you're doing stuff like stippling, because you're just punching the heck out of the tip and really messing it up. But yeah, this guy happens to be like one of my favorite models, so I keep redoing him in attempts to make him prettier and prettier. No way to attempt that with the Rosemary's. Yeah, I've made that mistake with my first Winsor & Newton that I got. I definitely hecked it up real bad by using it for things I shouldn't have used it for. But, you know, it happens. You live and you learn, and then you cry because you just destroyed a $25 brush through sheer ignorance. But yeah, how are you doing? Last time I saw you was while you were golly, would that have been Monday evening? Because I basically had to stop because I was cooking dinner. I was making like Valentine's Day dinner for the week, which is a weird way of looking at it. Sunday, okay. Then I don't remember what I was doing. Maybe I was cooking. We're a little budgetarily restricted right now, so we weren't able to go out and have one of those Valentine's Day dinners. And what we did instead is, when my wife first moved in with me, she was taking night classes with an artist. And so I told her I was going to cook her this nice dinner. And it was shrimp Alfredo with bell peppers, mushrooms, and onions. And I made that. And she took a bite out of it and immediately fell in love with it. You were going to paint more on Monday, but felt like gaming instead, so you played Golden Sun. I have never played a Golden Sun game. I didn't have a Game Boy Advance, so I never got a chance to get into those games, but I have friends who are very upset at me for having never experienced those amazing things. But yeah, so what I ended up doing was making The peppered shrimp Alfredo. You're playing the Game Boy Advance version on your Switch. Very cool. I need to get some kind of capture card for my Switch, but when I was going to, I didn't have any money. Which has kind of become a popular refrain for me this year. Because I really wanted to stream Super Mario RPG, since that was a game that was huge for me when I was a kid. But it just didn't end up happening, and that's okay. Okay, so I think, no, I gotta do some more orange on his back. But yeah, I ended up making the peppered shrimp Alfredo, and it's been feeding us steadily for the week. And we also bought some, I guess it's a loaf of French bread? A loaf of sourdough bread? Something of the kind. And we bought Kerrygold butter, which, you know, is like the richest butter you can buy in a grocery store. And so we've been taking huge chunks off of that, toasting it. And that's been pairing wonderfully, and just making me incredibly happy. So, I think this week I'm gonna buy like 3 loaves and a whole bunch of that butter, and that's just gonna be my snack. Going out for Valentine's is overrated. Yeah, it kind of sucks, because it's... come on, I can do this. Because it's so crowded everywhere, and you've got to deal with the wait, and then you're spending a ton of money to eat restaurant food when there's a good chance that you can cook better anyways. I guess the thing for us was that there's a Japanese restaurant in the area that just reopened a few months ago called Ike's, and they're really good, and we really missed them while they were gone. But they've been like impossible to get into because apparently we weren't the only one that missed them. So earlier in the year we got to go, but it required a friend getting there an hour early and like reserving a table for us. And they've had to adjust their hours like 3 times because they just don't have enough time to recover between the dinner or the lunch rush and the dinner rush. And they've had to close early because of running out of food. It's been the most amazing, mess I've ever seen. But I appreciate that, a place like Roanoke, which isn't exactly the most, I don't want a metropolitan place in the world, definitely enjoys Ike's Kitchen. Because I don't think we haven't been able to eat there since because it's just been so crowded. So we were going to try and go for Valentine's Day. But then, I ended up being unemployed because of the whole medical issue with the teaching. And so our money's a wee bit limited right now. And hopefully that'll all change. So instead I made peppered shrimp Alfredo, and we've been eating like kings anyway. Okay, what more can I do here? So I watched a video. There's a guy online, a mini painter. He's the one who gave me the inspiration for doing the typhus scheme that turned out really good. And he put out a new video today, actually, about how to do non-metallic metal with like 3 degrees of complexity. And he had some really good advice for doing that non-metallic metal. And I'll have to share that recipe. Oh, I can definitely do that. I'll just message it to you, because to be completely honest, I found it on All Recipes like a decade ago. And it was just so darn tasty that I've kept it in my repertoire. So yeah, I can just message that to you when I finish on here, I suppose, because I have no qualms about sharing delicious food with people. Yeah, it was kind of my lifeline when I was in college. I was not the most like domestically prepared to be in college and to be out on my own, and cooking was a huge part of that. Like, I didn't learn how to whisk an egg, how to beat an egg, until my sophomore year of college, and that was because I just never had to, and so like I'd never developed the technique. And then a friend showed me, and I was like, oh, okay, and I struggled with that for a while. But yeah, anyway, and I realized, I think, gosh, I want to say like my my senior year, I realized I didn't like how I was cooking for myself, and I wanted to learn how to be better at it. So I started watching the Food Network and, you know, the Travel Channel and all that stuff. And I started going to places like All Recipes to try and get better at cooking. So yeah, that site was a godsend. I do find it funny, though, that on All Recipes, or like any recipe site, if they have a chance to give a review, people who review don't always review the recipe that they're reviewing. You know what I mean? They'll be like, yeah, I didn't really like how it tasted, so I added this, and I did this, and I cut this measurement in half, and I added, you know, I doubled this measurement, and then it was really good. It's like, you're not really reviewing the recipe anymore. You've made your own. You know, it's like, I didn't really like this baseball game, so we got rid of the bats, and we put it in an ice skating rink, and we added sticks, and we changed the ball to a puck. But yeah, baseball's awesome. So, yeah, that's always been fun to see. And it's really funny to me to see, like, user profiles that are a decade old. Because I think mine's, at this point, like 15 years old? I don't know. Okay, but, anyway, going back to the non-metallic metal thingy. One thing he suggested was, for every new layer of brightness, only cover about 80% of your previous layer. Because otherwise you start getting these unnaturally bright swaths, and you end up getting way too much coverage. So when I'm doing these layers, I don't want to be covering the exact same amount. I want to cover just a little bit less. And eventually that'll hyper focus down, and you'll have these really tight little bright areas, and they will more realistically transition to darker reflections. And I'd never thought of that. Like, I knew there was supposed to be bright spots and low spots, but the idea of having, like, kind of a rule of thumb, lesser area being covered makes a lot of sense. So I figured I'd give that a try on good old Thunderfist here. And hopefully he turns out you used at least 7 colors on that sword. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I found this amazing Saint Celestine, and I don't know how they did it. Well, I guess I do, because I saw their speed paint of it, but it looked like he used at least 10 or 15 colors to get the gold that he did for the non-metallic metal. And I tried to replicate it, and it didn't really turn out, so I gave up. Eventually, I'll get the confidence to try again, but right now I think I'm okay with not doing so. Especially because it was my wife's Saint Celestine. She bought it a long time ago and just kind of never got back to it and doesn't think she's going to. So I told her, or I asked her if I could paint it, and if she ended up wanting to paint it, I'd just buy her another one. She was like, yeah, sure, whatever. She's got her dinosaur army to be happy with. But yeah, something that I've kind of had to learn with the blending stuff is kind of what you're probably doing with the glazing, is just having an immense amount of patience and going back and forth until it looks good. I think right now he's turning out okay. I guess your second one? Your second one that you're trying to do non-metallic metal on, or... Oh no, he fell. I'm gonna go look up the Saint Celestine now. I gotta show you this thing. Okay, and Mr. Atsu is live. 40K Mini. Let me see if I can find this paint job, because it's going to absolutely blow your mind when you look at it. I just know it. Of course, now that I'm looking for it, I'm not going to find it. They managed to get... Oh, there it is. Holy mackerel. Okay, so I'm going to open this image in a new tab. Oh, that looks terrible. Please be of higher resolution. Oh, it's Flame On Miniatures. There we go. Flame On Miniature. Oh! This guy's a jerk. Okay, yeah, I got this. I started... Oh, it's your second area. That's right, I remember you mentioning that it was your second one. And that, yeah, that one's a big toughie. Okay, so I think this is it. Yep, this one's it. Okie dokie. So, here is the Celestine done by, Flame On Miniatures. This is all non-metallic metal. Like, I watched them and how they managed to get those blends and the highlights and the dark reflections, and he said it took him like 8 months to do. And I understand, because that's absolutely insane. I thought it was like a CG render when I first saw it, and then I saw that no, he had painted it, and yeah, made me real mad. And then I found out that he had a video for it. So I tried to watch it, and it's just, it's a short video. It's cut down to like 10 minutes, I think, of just doing like the thigh plate. And I just, at some point, if I keep working at it, I might get there. But I am not there. Right now, I'm worried about making Garadon look as nasty as possible. Okay, what's going on here? I think that'll work. So with this one, I'm only going to want to do about 80% coverage of what I had. And we'll see if this actually ends up looking any good. So yeah, this is something I should be using a much nicer brush for than a Citadel paintbrush. And also probably darker. This is way too bright. It's showing up way too much against it. But yeah, that was one of those models that I was like, I'm never gonna be that good. That is rare air that man is probably breathing. But then again, that's what I thought before I, you know, a couple years ago when I first saw models like the Typhus one that I painted. And I painted that one, so I'll get there eventually. Right now, I am so sold on trying to make a new Death Guard army. The Citadel synthetics are surprisingly decent. I'm glad to hear that, because I just saw a post on, like, one of the Reddit sites I go to, where a dude was using one for a wash, and he like put it in to clean it into like the cup, and a whole bunch of the bristles spilled out. And some other people decided to throw in their own anecdotal evidence where they said things like, you know, I've barely used it and it's already flatter than a dry brush. And meanwhile, I've heard other people say it's great. So I think they just happen to get bad batches. You do need some better ones for your metallic and color shift paints. Can't you just use, I don't want to say use your worst brushes, but can't you just use some really cheap ones for metallic and color shift? Because those ones, those paints cause a whole lot of punishment. So it's like you don't really want to use good brushes for that. No, I think I want to wet that down and then dip that in here, turn that into more of a wash, get as much of the moisture out as possible, and then start blending towards the new color. And hopefully this will do it. I think I might have left a little too much water concentration in there. That's okay. It'll dry. This guy's gonna look like a tangerine. Since so much of him is gonna remain orange, he's gonna look like a tangerine. Hopefully what happens is like the yellow highlights are really gonna pop, and that'll give the implication of yellow. That's kind of my goal at this point. Okay, I'm gonna do the highlight at the top. Take some more of that moisture out, because there's way too much moisture for what's going on here. He's not going to need as much on this leg because it is partially obscured by shadow, so he doesn't need to go as deep with his coloring there. That might be a little too much, so we're going to blend back in some of the orange. We're going to pull some of the orange across there, and that loops it back up. So I've been reading a whole lot about Army Painter's new paints. Fanatic series, I guess they're called. And a whole bunch of reviewers are saying they're actually really darn good. And I'm moving away from Vallejo, so I'm considering picking up some of their line. But I think that's going to have to be one of those, you know, wait until later things. I just don't have the finances to do these things. But actually, while I'm thinking about it, because I've always had like a passing worth trying out sometime. Yeah, that is true. I think that's what'll happen. I'll buy a couple, see if I like. I'll buy like a triad, see if I like it. They've got a whole bunch of nice user-friendly stuff on them to make it easier for new painters to really understand what they're doing. I think I just did this backwards. That was dumb of me. That's okay. I should go deeper in the dark. Okay. Still use all Citadel pounds. Well, Citadel paint, I mean, I don't really understand people who give Citadel paints crap, because other than like their whites, they're really good. They have dense pigmentation, they have good coverage, they mix well. Like, I'm not going to say that they're the master class of painting, of paints, but I think you get pretty good value for the price. Because, on top of everything, they're pretty darn reliable. Like, I actually switched back over to Citadel paints for the newest ones that I bought. Like, instead of buying an ice yellow or whatever you want to call it, I just went ahead and bought Dorn yellow, because it looked like it was a pale enough color. And lo and behold, it's been basically perfect for me. So, it is what it is. I mean, you use the stuff you enjoy. White is a tough color in general because the pigments are big and heavy. That is true. My understanding is that Pro Acryl's titanium white is the end-all be-all. And once you've done that, you kind of don't need to have any other ones. And one of the stores in my neighborhood, or in my my area, actually started selling Pro Acryl. So I am kind of intrigued. The only problem is, because I'm using a makeup kit as my paint holder, my paint caddy, since it fits like my palette and everything, I don't have room for a Pro Acryl bottle because they're so heckin' big. So I don't know what I'm gonna do there. I might buy it and transfer it to a dropper bottle, I guess. Okay, 80% of the space on this one. Actually, wouldn't the light... Okay, this is my biggest problem with this stuff, is it's like, how does light reflect off of a ball? How does light hit a ball? I have a couple places you get one from. I'll try next time I'm at one of them. Yeah, and then you can let me know, because you're probably going to get Pro Acryl before or the titanium white before I do. Just my understanding is it's supposedly really good. Okay, that's going to be good for that. Except I now have made it way too. This is the part of blending that I struggle with, is the constant back and forth between the different colors that are being used. But I'll get there eventually. Yep. Okay, yeah, no, I already read that one. Let's go ahead and transition back that down to the dark red. Transition that back down. Okay. Gosh. His color scheme right now is very evocative of something, and I can't think of it. He looks like something else that I'm really familiar with. So I saw that they released a new like balance data slate or something recently. And one of the things they did was they brought the points down for the heavy intercessors and have made them a sub 100 point unit. And that's kind of terrifying to me, because heavy intercessors they weren't great at the points they were at, and I was fine with that, but now they're like a super viable take and hold infantry unit. And for me, that's just like, bully, great. Maybe my Imperial Fist will actually be a half-decent army now. But it's like they're kind of scary because they're really durable. With the right Space Marine detachment, they definitely punch up real nicely. Friend shop in Michigan, might have to toss them an order. Send it. Cool, 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 cool. I'm glad that worked out for you. But yeah, Pro Acryl Titanium White for anyone else who was interested or missed what I called it. I'm excited to give it a try when I eventually get around. What I'm probably going to do is I've got a couple of dropper bottles left. It's all just transferred over to one of my dropper bottles. Because I'm using a Vallejo White, and it's fine. But I'm running low, so it's actually about time for me to go ahead and resupply on that. So that's what I might do. I might go ahead and buy that and just put it in a dropper bottle. And that'll be pretty good timing because at some point I need to go to that store anyway because a young man is trying to get me, a young man client, I guess, is trying to get me to paint Lionel Johnson whenever he buys that mini. Oh, that's cool. I was kind of surprised at the sudden growth of hobby shops in the area because for a long time we had like Star City Games for Magic the Gathering and card games, and then we had Mishap for like everything else. And my understanding with Mishap is they've kind of gone through some financial times because they chose to expand into like a former restaurant right before the pandemic hit. So he thought he was going to have like a bigger playing space and he was going to have this, that, and the other. And then his income stopped because, you know, pandemic. And so he's been they're still getting by, but he's had to like get rid of most of his staff and he's working there by himself. And it's really slowed down his ability to do any renovations to that place. And on top of that, Star City became Star City Comics and Games, and they now sell Warhammer, and they now sell a whole bunch of other stuff that he was kind of cornering the market on. And obviously, it's been difficult for him to adjust. And a couple years ago, a place called Blade Gaming opened up, and that place is wonderful. I really like it there, but they're a board game, tabletop game, card game competitor, and they've decided to start getting into selling Warhammer. So, we went from having like half of a Warhammer store to having 3. And I think they've kind of all, you know, staked their claim and taken their corners, since they're all in different parts of the city. But it's definitely kind of overloaded the clientele. Or, you know, because we only have so many people here. I guess the semi-positive thing is that when I was the high school teacher who helped run the tabletop gaming club, I definitely got a bunch of kids into Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons and Warhammer. So hopefully I helped foster the next generation of nerds that will justify us having 3 hobby shops in the area. At least that's kind of the goal. That's kind of the plan. That's kind of the hope. Is that I was able to help contribute to an increasing, burgeoning hobbyist group in Southwest Virginia. Okay. I'm kind of losing the plot a little bit here. I'm forgetting what things I've already hit and what things I haven't. Your finger slipped and you just ordered Fulcrum Transfigured. Congratulations! Heck yeah! You're about to get a very big, very sensitive, very warped model. I hope he's not warped. I hope to God he's not warped. Good luck with that guy. Unfortunately, my tax returns got to be used to pay bills, so I won't be able to spoil myself with anything like that. But kudos to you for doing so, because that's really freaking cool. I can't wait to see that model on camera. The rest is going to just hit your... It just hit your return. I think that's great. It's like you're just refresh, 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 refresh. Go! That's how I would be. But yeah, I kind of want to get myself a desktop so that I can have a higher performance console capable of doing better things. But that's not going to happen for a little while. And that's okay. It's not something I need right now. I have a laptop that's pretty darn powerful, pretty darn good. But man, I'm really happy you were able to get that Fulgrim. I was really worried that it was going to be like sold out, and then if it's sold out, you're not going to see it for a year and a half. You know what I mean? So are you planning on painting him to align with like the Emperor's Children scheme, or are you going to go wild and do your own thing? Okay, orange, it'd be great if you'd like pop a little more off the canvas here. Canvas being his thigh. Probably gonna do your own thing? Heck yeah! As you should. I was actually waiting and kind of saving because, there's I mean, we've done the other 3 Chaos God aligned, armies. You know, with the World Eaters and the Thousand Suns and the Death Guard. And that's all cool, but I was really hoping, and I mean, it seems to be hinting that like, the Emperor's Children are going to be the next Chaos Army. And that's fine, and that's great, and I'm really excited for it, because the Horus Heresy made me an Emperor's Children fan. They're just so unabashedly evil and over-the-top and ridiculous that they're going to be fun to paint and collect and fight, but they're also going to be fun to watch get obliterated off the table. You want them for your display case because it's just a stunning model? I agree wholeheartedly. That's like the perfect reason to buy a model of that scope. So yeah, I figured that, you know, Emperor's Children are going to become an army this edition. And so I want to make myself an Emperor's Children army, and I want to get the Demon Primarch Fulgrim when they eventually make him, and get enough models to get like 1,000 points worth or something. And I saw that a new codex was supposed to be coming out in the summer. I'm like, oh, that must be the Emperor's Children one, so I better save up for that. And it's looking increasingly like the summer release is going to be a combined Agents of the Imperium thing, which in itself is pretty cool, because that's going to be like all of the assassins, that's going to be the different Ordos. They're probably going to throw the Death Watch in there to give them more of a home than just a codex supplement. So that's going to be neat that they're getting their own bespoke army, and they're going to do that kind of thing. And it also gives me more time to save up for the Emperor's Children army when I finally get another job. So I am kind of concerned, though, with how they're putting out armies at this point, because you want your Eldar Codex. You don't need it. I'm just kidding. I'm excited that you're excited for it. The Eldar right now are eating really good at the table, is my understanding. Despite multiple, you know, rollbacks on some of their abilities, they're still like the army to beat in 40k. I think the Necrons might have overtaken them, but they have been the big dog on campus all edition. I'm pretty jazzed that they're starting to get new plastic units to replace their old ones. Games Workshop has done a very good job of listening to the fans there. You know who I can't wait to get a Codex? AdMech. I know they already got a Codex, but the Codex is garbage. So, and it has been since the release of the 9th edition Codex. So I'm hoping at some point someone at Games Workshop shows them some pity, and the Eldar are allowed to have an army that's viable. Or not the Eldar, the AdMech. Because the AdMech have been hot garbage for many years now. And that's really funny to me. It got to a point that, I think I told you, Soft Servo sold me his AdMech army, because he just wasn't having fun playing it. Now he's building very slowly a Knights army, which I think is pretty darn cool. Okay, no, I don't want to do that. That's going to leave beating on the edge, so we're going to go that way instead. But now I have like 1,500 points of AdMech, and that point
number, quantity, whatever value keeps going lower because they keep lowering the cost of the AdMech units, which means if I ever want to finish out the army, I'm gonna have to shovel out a second mortgage or something. Because they're just such an expensive army to collect. And the new combat patrols are looking like doo-doo because they keep getting rid of the vehicle units, which I get. Vehicle units are really hard to balance around in a skirmish game, so they're trying to make it more an actual skirmish game. But my goodness. The last AdMech combat patrol was almost worth the money. The new one, it's hot garbage. Got a lot of fun units, but it's like it's like 250 points. It's a terrible army to start with. Beyond that, though, I have spent the last 2 weeks studying feverishly for a certification, and I finished the test 2 days ago. 2 days ago on Wednesday. I finished the course on Wednesday, and I took the mock test, and I found out there was some... I kind of expected it, but I found out there were some very large gaps in my knowledge base. So, I've been studying even more feverishly over the past couple of days to try and bridge those gaps. And I'm going to study again tomorrow. And hopefully, when I take the test on Monday, it'll all be fine. Because, if I fail the test, I don't get to retake it for 6 months. And I can't remain unemployed that long. Yeah, I hope so. I feel pretty okay about it because they have a mock test in the coursework that I was taking. And the first time I took it, I got like a 70, which is nowhere near good enough. But I was able to kind of identify where my weak points were. And I was able to use that to help study that specific material. And so that's what I did. And then I retook the test today, and I got a 93 on it. And they recommend you get at least a 90 before you go on and do the real thing. So hopefully, as long as I keep studying where my deficiencies are, by the time Monday rolls around, I'll have done all of the studying and preparation I've needed, and then I can do fine on the test on the real thing, and then I can celebrate and go home and start studying for the second one, because I've got 2 certifications I've got to work on before I'm employable. But it should all be okay. I don't remember if I mentioned it on your stream, if I wanted to like talk about it, but it's tech support stuff, certification for that. And while I have been on computers basically all my life, my like technical understanding of them is very limited. So I have learned a lot through this program. And I also scared one of my friends. Seems I have a great plan going. Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm doing my best because I've always liked computers. I've always enjoyed learning about them. I always wished I knew more about them. You know, former school teacher, so I definitely enjoy helping people. Also former school teacher, so that means I don't want to talk to people unless I absolutely have to. So my hope is that I can get in at like a help desk and kind of get my feet wet and use that as a bridge job until I can get the rest of my certifications and eventually move into proper IT work as like a network administrator or something. But that's kind of the plan. And we'll see how that goes. Okay. Yeah, I seem to have moved on. I just painted the wrong leg. I mean, it's fine, because I'm eventually going to have to paint this leg. But I was definitely working on his left leg at first, and then I guess my mind kind of wandered. That's okay. I'll finish this leg up, and then I'll go back to the other one. speaking of, since the last time we played, or since the time that we played, they've made Garadon worse than he was when we played. But at the same time, they've made the aggressors really good. And they work really well with him. So I've had to fight the urge to, like, metagame a little bit and just have Garadon be escorted by a half dozen aggressors and a harm assist, and just delete everything around him. Because they did a thing where the apothecary biologist gives everyone in his unit lethal hits with ranged attacks, which in itself is pretty darn good. And Garadon is just kind of a vehicle deleter, so he's fun there. But what are they called? The aggressors, they have like the grenade launchers on their backs, and they've got the bolt storm gauntlets, so they get an unholy amount of bolter attacks, which can then be boosted with some kind of stratagem that I'm forgetting. And so not only do they get more hits, but every time they roll a 5 or higher, they get a mortal wound type hit, a devastating wound, or whatever the heck it's called. So someone did the math and found out that with a squad of 6 of them, an apothecary biologist, and that stratagem, you can do like 32 mortal wounds on average during the shooting phase. And that just feels stupid. That's a lot of death. So I went ahead and bought some aggressors just because I love the fact that they're slap crabs, and painted those up. But I really don't want to have more, because that just seems obscene and over the top and ridiculous, and would also immediately make me, you know, the most hated player in my friend group. So yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Instead, I'm gonna get into tech support. Oh wow, that actually ended up looking really good. We're getting closer to the yellow I'm looking for. And I hope that I'm being restrained enough with some of this that it's turning out okay. Something else I'm not sure you might have noticed, but I've had to change the music. My subscription with oh my gosh, what are they called? Epidemic ran out, and I definitely don't have the money to buy another year subscription. So instead, I'm just kind of using YouTube stuff, which I guess is fine. It's all nice and chill. There's nothing wrong with nice and chill. Okay, let's extend that down a little further, because that's been bothering me. Okay, same thing here. We're gonna go ahead and just get some of that. Some of that. Something else that's kind of tickled me today is that Baldur's Gate 3 just had its 6th patch, like its 6th major patch. And one of the biggest things about Baldur's Gate is that the companions have really kind of sunk their claws into everyone's hearts, right? And one of the things about the game is, even though it's officially released, is that they're still kind of keeping with the close communication with the fans and really listening to feedback and that kind of thing. And so one thing they wanted to improve was some of the interactions with the companions. And since you know, Valentine's Day, they decided to really theme this this patch around romance. So they've like refined the kissing animations, which I still think looks like someone slamming 2 Barbie dolls together, because they can't quite get that impact right. They showed it in one of the cutscenes that they added as a teaser, and it really just looked like one of them went in for a headbutt and they ended up in a kiss. But beyond that point, they also fixed a lot of gameplay patches and a lot of gameplay issues. And I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but by far, my favorite thing about it is that everyone was like, they're going to release the patch on Valentine's Day, they're going to be cheesy with it, and we're going to be able to play with the patch on Valentine's Day, and, you know, theme of love and all that. And Larian Studios on Twitter saw this and quote retweeted or responded to them with, like, the Pingu meme of, well, now I don't wanna. Or, well, now I'm not gonna. And, true to their word, they didn't release it on Valentine's Day. And it left a whole bunch of people really desperate for these new interactions. And so they kept bothering Larian Studios to be like, come on, guys, when are you gonna release the patch? And Larian was coy about it, and on the evening, they posted another one of Pingu saying goodnight and getting into bed, which, you know, drove their fans absolutely ballistic. And then they kind of did the exact same thing on Thursday. So they'd basically been stringing along their fans for 2 straight days, and that's funny. At least it was to me, because while I enjoy the game, and I definitely enjoy the companion interactions, you know, I'm not hanging on its every word. Though I will say, I did have, like, the strangest, like, romance moment with one of the characters in the game I'm playing with my wife, because we each kind of decided we can't romance each other since we're both supposed to be the main character, and I'm just kind of a secondary, non-speaky dude next to her. But, come on, I can do this. There we go. But one of the characters that I wanted to romance in one of the other games, but I never did, was Lae'zel, which is the Githyanki fighter. And, because I didn't realize that you could romance multiple people during the same playthrough. So I said, what the heck, I'm going to go ahead and do it this game. She's got her little group. I'm going to go ahead and romance this lady. And, you'll get, like, special interactions with them when your characters go to bed for the long rest, right? And I wake up and she's standing over me and saying, like, come on, it's time. And of course, Lae'zel's ultra violent and very, very militaristic. So I'm like, it's time for what? What's happening? What's going on? And she basically tells me that to prove that I'm worthy of her affection, and that I'm worthy to, like, be a romanceable partner for her, we've got to fight. And I'm incredibly tickled because that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. But I had also just respec'd my character as a paladin with a whole bunch of smites. And her character was a little beat up from the day's adventuring. And I hadn't used any smites. So we get into the fight, which is even better because everyone in camp is watching for some reason. It defaults back to, like, the regular camp and no one's asleep, so everyone's just standing around watching the Githyanki fighter just get absolutely bodied by what used to be a cleric and is now a paladin. And the only reason I had, not, well, that's not the only reason I had just been bored playing cleric, but one of the things I knew is someone else had done that scene. I'd already seen the, that specific romanceable scene in Baldur's Gate on Reddit somewhere. But in their version of the romanceable scene, they had decided it was a good idea to strip their character and Lae'zel, you know, down to nothing, and then give them both hard salamis as clubs. And then the cutscene played out with them just wailing on each other with it. Which is one of the most absurd things I've ever seen. So Baldur's Gate is definitely a game where you can make ridiculous moments happen. And I just found out today that Steam was having a sale on Pathfinder Kingmaker, which is another great tabletop RPG. I actually ran the module, or was running the module, for my wife and a couple of other friends, but like, a combination of scheduling and one friend moving away kind of ruined that game. You love ridiculous moments in the D&D games. I think that, I mean, I don't have to think this, I'm not the only one, but they're really what makes D&D work nowadays. Because, like most people that I hear talk about D&D, they may like the mechanics of it, but I don't really hear about people really getting into the granular grind of it anymore. It seems that D&D's modern audience is far more interested in creating experiences, you know what I mean? And enjoying the story. You have both Pathfinder games thanks to Humble Bundle. Oh, those Owlcat Studios, the ones who made them, they're also the ones who made Rogue Trader. So if you have a chance to play, my brain died, Pathfinder Kingmaker, or I think, what is it, Wrath of the Righteous? I forget what the other one is called. But if you have a chance to play either of those, know that you're basically getting a primer for what Rogue Trader is going to be like. And then as soon as you can, get Rogue Trader. Because Rogue Trader's a really freaking good game. And Owlcat Studios did a really good job. I actually just restarted a game of Rogue Trader a couple days ago. And my goal is to eventually, like, stream it. You've heard, yeah. I mean, you've probably heard a lot of good from me, and I will admit, I'm at this point irrational about it. I'm way too big a fan of Rogue Trader. It's not quite Baldur's Gate, because that game's kind of on its own level, but it's a really good game. Probably one of the best things about it is simply the humor. They really nailed, like, the grim darkness of 40K, but to add on to that, they really nailed the humor of 40K. There's just some great moments that happen in that game because of what's going on in the world. And everything is bad. Even when you're being good, you still have to watch horrible things happen. There's a lot of silliness, there's a lot of absurdity. It's just a darn good game. And of course, I've mentioned it before, Argenta is just the best thing ever. That Sisters of Battle is so awesome. I feel like I've made this cross on him just way too wide, and I should probably actually narrow it down. So I think that little dark section is going to get brightened up a little bit. I also feel like I'm probably destroying this brush some more, which is fine. I'm gonna go ahead and go in a little bit because it doesn't need to be this wide. Gonna go back in a little bit there. My understanding with Rogue Trader is the game runs about 70 hours, which is disgusting to me, but, like, you know, most modern computer RPGs are running like that anyway. So I'm just happy that there's enough content to make me feel like I got my money's worth. I really can't wait to get back into it, especially now that I have a better grasp of the mechanics, because that was the worst part about getting into Rogue Trader, was just trying to understand what the heck the game was telling me when I was upgrading my character or choosing different skills and whatnot. Though what I really did kind of learn was that if you have a general idea of what they're trying to tell you, you know what they're trying to tell you. Mechanically, you may not understand the equations they're putting in front of you, but that's okay. If you understand that this is supposed to make you shoot better, or this is supposed to make you hit better, you don't need to know the crunchy math. They'll do all that in the background for you. And of course, they do that great thing with the tooltips where if you hover over certain green words, they have a deeper explanation for you. And that definitely helps with just general understanding of the game. Okay. I think that's better. I'll probably have to look at that off camera to see if it actually is better, or to see if I'm just losing my mind. Because I have to arrange things differently with the camera here to really see what I'm doing, or to make sure that it looks good on stream. Okay, there we go. Crunchy min-max math is not my strong suit. I mean, you don't really need it. At least not with Rogue Trader. I'm okay with it because of the background and playing Magic a lot and learning about that stuff, but I'm no master, and I miss a lot of things because I get obsessed with doing a certain thing one way really badly. But, if you have an idea of what you want your character to be, in terms of their tendency and how you want to play as them, it lets you do that pretty easily. And they have a bunch of different levels of difficulty for how you may want to play the game. And you can change it at any time, which I think is great. And if you decide, oh well, the puzzles are fine. I feel like I'm succeeding and failing enough on those, but the combat's just way too freaking hard. You can make the combat easier without changing the puzzle difficulty. They're very in-depth with their customizability. And that really impressed me. And from what I understand, that's become something of like a regular thing in computer RPGs. Is just letting you like refine the individual settings of how difficult or easy you want the game to be. And I think that's okay. Okay, so I think that's how the one leg has to go, because technically this is all hidden under shadow. So this is going to be the bright bit. Gonna mix some more of the yellow and this orange together. Oh my goodness. Is this a KK? This is a KK Slider song, isn't it? That's cool. This is just like a video game, study and vibe to soundtrack. And I'm hoping I don't get copyright struck for any of it. They kind of implied that that it's meant specifically for streaming and the like, but who knows? This video may be the one that gets muted. But yeah, I think I might have told you before with Rogue Trader, but one of my favorite things about that game is there are 3 general moral paths you can follow. You can choose to be the incredibly zealot, passionate zealot that's, Imperium good, Xenos bad, mutant bad, why are these commoners talking to me? And you can just be like the most ragingest of assholes. And it's like, cool, that's a way you can play, because that's accurate to 40k, I understand, yeah. Or you can choose to be like complete heretic, who is definitely going to dabble in with chaos in your gameplay, and you even get a different companion that way that you can only get if you choose to embrace chaos. And I think that's kind of cool. And you can even choose to be a decent human being by modern standards if you want. If you want to try and just be an okay person, that actually works. And in the game, it definitely makes things a little more difficult for you, because you're trying to run by contemporary morality in a world where that clearly kind of has lost its place. But it's very doable. It's the way I typically played. And I'm curious what the ending's going to be like, because I've heard that if you try and play a nice guy in Rogue Trader, that while things may work out for you in the immediate term, it leads to disaster with your protectorate in the post-credits. So I'm legitimately curious how bad things are going to go if I try and play as a, early 2000s nice guy versus a complete Imperial psychopath. Okay. So this is gonna... Okay, again, about 80% coverage of my previous layer. So I never want to go in too hard, because if I do, it's going to completely cover the layer, and I'm going to lose that subtle transition into a shinier metallic metal. That's the plan, at least. So I don't want this to cover all of the previous coverage I had, right? At some point I'm gonna have to try and get that thigh. But that's definitely in a weird place that I'm not sure I can really hit. But there's only one way to find out. I think it might be time for me to get some noise dampening material for the wall across from me. Because while I do have a decent little sound isolation booth around my phone, or not around my phone, around my mic, I don't know if it's doing enough. Okay, come on, come on. I don't even know if I'm on camera anymore. I'm sorry if I'm not. There we go. I'm gonna let that dry before I fudge with it anymore. Okay. Okay, let's see. Can I hit his rib cage down here? I'm at like the orangey yellow step, so this isn't the brightest yellow I'm going to have. This is far from it. This is more like the mid-tone yellow. And eventually it'll build up to a more dramatic yellow, but that's all going to be like corner stuff. I will say, I do like how stark the contrast is already becoming across this guy's armor. Across his armor. So hopefully it will continue looking this good as I go higher up on the highlight. On the highlight contrast levels. Okay, what is that? That's a clip that needs to be done. Same with that one. I missed that one on his other side. So he's got these little belt clips. I don't know if I can hit them, but I'm gonna give it a shot. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm much happier with how this one looks compared to the last time I tried to do him, because he definitely ended up being like, I ended up going over too much of the previous layer, and so a lot of the isolated brightness was getting lost. But with this one, you can pretty clearly see where it's supposed to be the shadows and the highlights, and so I spent like 45 minutes cleaning him. I'm happy that that time wasn't done, or that wasn't done in vain. I'm so excited at the prospect of making more money and having a lot less stress. That's been a big reason why I wanted to change jobs, is because I've been stress levels too high, not good for body, bad for health. And my understanding is that on top of being something I want to do, I'm sorry, I know I'm jumping subjects here, but is that IT, once you get past like the entry level stuff, you start making really good money, because people who are technically proficient to the level that I'll eventually be aren't easy to find. So hopefully, within a couple years, I'll be making like twice as much money as I was making as a school teacher, and thoroughly enjoying my job more. And then, unfortunately, my wife is going to have to deal with the fact that I'm turning the basement into a giant Warhammer museum. She actually probably won't be bothered by that. Our original plan, before we realized how prohibitive the cost was to completely renovate the basement and turn it into like the gaming lounge. Wanted to get a really nice, table, finish the basement entirely, just have a great place to sit down and play tabletop games with friends. But unfortunately, since it's an unfinished basement in an old-ass house, we found out that that is incredibly expensive. And it kind of fell off as a priority. Because we also plan on finishing our attic, which is large enough to basically be a whole nother floor almost. And we've got a couple of other house maintenance things we got to do. But yeah, I don't want to make it sound like she'd be upset at the things I'm doing. My wife is incredibly supportive because she's just as big a nerd as I am. She's right now upstairs DMing her own campaign, which is a take on Curse of Strahd, that she's been doing with her friends for almost 2 years. I think they just hit the 2-year mark. And I couldn't be more proud of her, because it proves that she is at least, if not a better DM than me, which I think in a lot of ways she is, then she's at the very least a lot more consistent to DM than me. Because I don't think I'd been able to keep a game going for longer than about a year before something happens. So, huge kudos to Art by QB for having a long-running campaign. And she's in no signs of stopping. Her friends are having a great time. and she's already planted the seeds to transition them over into Wild Beyond Witchlight, I think is the Feywild campaign. So yeah, she's doing a lot of cool stuff. And what makes me happy, going back to the thing about Pathfinder that I was talking about, is that the Kingmaker campaign I started doing because Soft Servo was interested, and he told me about it, and so I started looking it up. I was like, yeah, this is a really cool campaign idea. I'm going to do this. So we started doing Kingmaker, and about midway through, I realized that I didn't like where it wanted me to go, and they didn't want to do the kingdom simulation stuff. They just wanted to adventure. So I threw that away, and I just started kind of going my own way with it. But in the meantime, my wife, who had only at that point, she'd played D&D before, telling a friend about your product. This is Tor Garadon. He's the captain of the 3rd company for the Imperial Fists. I'm trying to do a high contrast yellow armor, because the flat Imperial Fist yellow is kind of boring as far as I'm concerned. And I'd like to make my character models look stupid good. And so that is what I've been doing. But yeah, she's been, she kind of fell in love with her new character, or with the character she made for that game. Up until then, I think she had maybe played 2 or 3 D&D campaigns in like college and whatnot, and so she hadn't really grown attached to any one character. And we made this one using like a random roll generator, and then she modified it to better fit what she was considering playing, and she really became attached to this character. And now she's made a whole side comic about it that she's trying to get published with a publishing house that she has had high respect for a long time. So between my dumb D&D campaign and Soft Servo's trolling of her character via an ill-mannered duck, we've accidentally given her a whole headcanon for her player character, which I think is rad. Okay, I want to do some yellow in here. Not a whole lot, just enough. I gotta flip you upside down, buddy. Again, 80% of the previous layer. 80% of the previous layer. Edge highlight that. Yeah, I'm still kind of flabbergasted it happened that way, because apparently she was like having fun playing the character, and that's all good and great and grand. But what pulled it all together was that Soft Servo, he's not an agent of chaos, but he's also not super tied into like storylines, right? He doesn't want to go through a predetermined story that's more narrative heavy and then allows for personal freedom, because he's an old school D&D player. And one thing he decided is that he could not keep up with a regular schedule of D&D. His life was just too busy. And he wanted to play a ranger named Mallard Ballard, which is its own thing, but that ranger was going to have a familiar that was a duck, because Soft Servo loves ducks. And so, since he couldn't play, what we decided was that the characters were going to find his duck familiar as a way of like foreshadowing that he might guest in the game every now and again. And what we decided to do, without telling the rest of the party, is that every now and then I would just text him, or I would just ask him while we were working together, hey, what's the duck up to? And then he would just come up with something on the spot using his, prodigious knowledge of Dungeons and Dragons, and make a ridiculous scenario for the duck to appear. And one time he just said he wants the duck to be coming out of the Underdark, like a cavern or something, holding on to the knife of a drowned noble. And it's like, that is the strangest story hook I've ever heard, but I dig it. And I started putting a couple things together, and my wife's character, Art by QB's character, was a tiefling bard. And she wanted to kind of not play with the bard trope of, oh, he sleeps with everything, because she finds that boring and a bit lazy. So instead what she did was her character was actively trying to find true love, but it kept not working out. For some, you know, some were very amicable separations, but others were extremely dangerous. And the reason why she was in the Stolen Lands for the Kingmaker campaign is that she was running away from a failed relationship where it turned out that they were the husband and wife in this thing would like lure attractive people to their home and then brutally murder them. And her character happened to be their latest victim. And so she's like, well, I gotta go. And fled to the Stolen Lands. Because that's where the character figured they could hide. And I think that's a great plot hook. Allows for a lot of things. But one thing that she had mentioned was that her character had a lot of failed relationships. And some ended badly and some didn't. So I asked her at one point, hey, can you make me a list of your character's failed relationships? And apparently that just got the gears turning in her brain. And so I mentioned that one of them explicitly had to be a drowned noble. And then she came up with a whole headcanon of stuff and gave me the info for the drowned noble, and that was it. And so I used that drowned noble as part of the plot hook with the duck. The duck had stolen one of their knives. And had kind of wandered back into the Underdark after handing it to them. And so they chased the duck in there because they had their own kind of emotional connections to the duck from previous shenanigans. And that one thing led to another, and that's why they've been stuck there ever since, because we haven't played the game. We got pretty deep into that part of the story with all sorts of emotional trauma and all that fun stuff. But then right before we got to the big bad, a work schedule changed, and we have not been able to leave yet. So they are right at the confrontation with the big bad and have not been able to leave. They have been stuck on Namek for over 2 years. And that's both funny and tragic. And it's kind of made worse by the fact that I didn't mean to do this, but apparently the place where I had been keeping all of my notes, which was OneNote, the Microsoft Office product, because I think it's a great way for keeping notes for a D&D campaign, that was tied to my work account. And I don't have access to my work account anymore. So I don't think they're ever getting out of the Underdark. Because I can't get back into my notes and remember anything. So unfortunately, I think that game is going to end up being Kaputski. Which really sucks, because that means all of those storylines are unresolved that everyone had. I know, right? It really stinks. But beyond that, yeah, everyone's kind of going to be stuck in limbo there until unless I can somehow get back into my account, which I highly doubt. But what that does do, I suppose, is give me a little bit of leeway to start a new campaign. Because another problem was around that time, I was getting really, really burnt out on D&D. Between the stress of my job and having to plan it out every week, and also kind of writing myself into what felt like a narrative corner, I was just kind of not feeling it anymore. And so when one of the players' job schedules kind of changed and they weren't able to play, it was almost like a blessing in disguise because it gave me quite a bit of time to not have to think about it. But now, with Baldur's Gate 3 consuming my life, and Rogue Trader doing the same thing prior, I'm back in a D&D mood. So, even though we may not be able to go back to that campaign, my desire to DM has increased exponentially. And so hopefully, we'll be able to do a game again sometime soon, even if it has to be with slightly different people. I'm starting to have a problem here because the paint is drying out too much and it's beginning. You wish you could play? Yeah, that would be really cool. What would most likely happen is we'd all do it online. We do it on we've been working over Discord, or we actually were using Roll20, but I don't even know if I still have my Roll20 account. You're an hour behind us, aren't you? Because I think I'm on Eastern, so I think you're in Central. I don't know my geography too well. I forgot. Because yeah, if we ever get a game, actually, if we ever get a game started, I will let you know and see if it would fit into your schedule. Oh, you're in Eastern too? Okay, well that works a whole lot better. But yeah, so if we ever get a game started back up, I will definitely let you know, and we'll see if it fits into your schedule. Because I became a real big fan of using Roll20 assets, but I'm pretty sure that I have let my Roll20 account lapse because money. Yeah, that is true. They are via Discord. You know what really sucks? Right before the pandemic, as I was getting into the mini painting thing, like I was really getting into the mini painting thing, and you can see where that led. But one of the things about that is I decided to go ahead and join a Kickstarter. Soft Servo had been telling me over and over again that Reaper miniatures are great, and that it's really not worth buying one at a time because of shipping and whatnot. So, like, if you ever want to do a Reaper miniatures order, let me know so we can both do one. And I was like, cool, great, grand. And what ended up happening was I noticed that they were having a Kickstarter around, I think, 2018, 2019. And it was one of those things where if you spend $100, you get a whole ton of minis. And if you spend more than that, you get a whole ton more minis. So I was like, wow, this seems like a great deal. I have money. I'm painting minis. I'm playing a ton of D&D. I'm going to go ahead and do this. And so I spent like $150 on the Reaper Miniatures Kickstarter. And it succeeded. Everything was fine. Then it was like the minis will get here around 2022 or 2021 or whatever. And it was like, great, cool. I guess I'll just have a ton of minis soon. And then we can have all sorts of minis and they'll fit the games we're playing and blah, 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 blah. And then the pandemic hit. And no one was getting together to play D&D. I managed to get the minis that summer. And I guess that was all fine and dandy, except that was also the same time that one of the key players in our group moved away, so we switched over to Discord. Or I mean Roll20. So it's like, cool. I have $150 of D&D minis and we don't need them anymore. That's fine. And I still have them to this day, and a grand majority of them are not painted. Now, I have painted some of them. I think, actually... Are they up there? Yeah, they're up there. I specifically got one of the packs called the Dungeon Dwellers pack, which has a bunch of hero units, because I really like the Plague Doctors that came with it. So I went ahead and painted those guys up just for funsies, and I've actually got them sitting on a shelf next to me. And of course, I got a couple of Roll20 miniatures because Roll20 does a great job. And now that I have I have two 3D printers, it's incredibly economical to just make a Roll20 character, spend $8 to get the STL, and print him out. And so something fun I've been doing for my friends is, a couple Christmases ago, I asked them all to make their character in Roll20, and then send me the link. And then I printed them out, and I printed them both at, like, tabletop gaming size, which is, 28mm. And then I printed them out at about, gosh, I don't know, was it 4 or 5 inches tall? So they were like desktop displays. And I painted those up too. And I gave them to my Kingmaker group for Christmas. Because that was like the last game we were ever going to be able to play in person. So everyone has a roll or a Hero Forge designed version of their characters painted by me. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was really happy to do it. I'd love to do something like that again because, and I don't want to toot my own horn too much, but I have clearly improved as a painter since then. So I'd love to do another batch of that with like a new set of characters, because I think that'd be super fun. Yeah, this is speaking of epic, this guy's looking really good. Okay, he's almost at the point where I can actually start painting him yellow. As weird as that sounds, I've been painting him like an orange yellow. I've been mixing bright orange with Averland Sunset, which is like a golden orangey yellow to begin with. So, very soon, I guess once I finish with this backpack, he's going to be ready to start actually painting yellow. And yeah, the contrast really works now that I did it right. Or at least closer to right. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do, honestly. As much as I enjoy painting the Warhammer minis, I enjoy commission painting. If that was a sustainable line of work, I promise you, that would be something I'd probably do instead of, like, getting into this IT stuff. Whoops, I hit the camera with my face. I'm really enjoying just painting things for people and helping them see the character or hero that they had in their head, or the scheme that they had in their head, come alive with, the brush. And while I have done some commission work, I haven't been able to get my name out there enough to turn this into, like, even a part-time gig. So hopefully, that's partially why I started streaming, is because I wanted to get my name and my face out there, that I am indeed doing commission work, and that I would love to paint your minis at a price that is probably severely undercharging on my part, because I just want people to know that I want to paint their minis. And honestly, with how much I'm just kind of painting for myself, my work rate is starting to get really silly. Like I said, I started cleaning this guy around 3 p.m. and it's 9 o'clock now, and so with a couple of breaks, I've managed to get him this far. So I'm pretty sure that I'd have a pretty quick turnaround for pretty much any commission work I'd have to do. Come on. This is where I always struggle. I always struggle on, like, round objects, because the idea of accurately depicting how light hits round objects is always weird to me. always feel like I'm not quite doing it right. So I'm probably gonna have to do some more of that study work where you look at real pictures and then you cross-reference them with what you're doing. And then you can get better at it that way. Okay, so go ahead and do that. Make it more rounded. I think that's how it works. And then we can go even darker. Add a little bit of water in there. Go a little darker. I'm not that good at the whole study thing. Neither am I. That's kind of been my problem with this, is like, they're always like, you know, study references, study real life references, study how metal armor actually looks in the real world. Like, I've tried, but I'm bad at it. So, you know, it is what it is, I guess. You work to your strengths. I guess my biggest thing has just been, again, I've been headbutting a wall with this for months now, with this non-metallic metal stuff. And what's helping me is just watching other people do it. That's been my biggest boon, is just trying to find videos of people doing it and finding out which of their techniques and styles best align with how I paint. Or like most, my brain most groks, or whatever you want to call it. Because once that happens, and you finally like, oh yeah, I can replicate that technique, then you can start practicing and refining it, right? Okay, that's too orange. We're gonna mix this back in, water that down. See, like right now, I'm clearly struggling with the power pack a little bit, and I'm having to fight back and forth between where the yellow should go versus where the orange should go versus where the darker red should go. But that turned out okay. I think I'm gonna be okay with that. I'll look at it again and I'll probably correct it later. Okay, just a little bit there. Just a little bit of the yellow in there, because we don't need a lot. Again, 80% of 80%. 80% of 80%. And wow. Okay, now he's got all the yellow on, or now he got all the orange yellow on him. Next, we're going back to a brighter yellow. Going back to just the golden yellow. And now I get to cry, because this is where this all falls apart. The last couple of times I've done this, this is where the model falls apart, because I get them to like this level, and I'm like, wow, this looks really good, I like this, blah, 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 blah. But then I start putting on the brighter highlights, and then because I'm too scared of the brighter highlights not being highlighty enough, I end up going too far, and I end up messing up the model. So, again, we want 80% of 80%. So I'm gonna try and be at, wow, that's so crazy to me. So I'm sorry, I put the Everland Sunset on the knee scalp, and it almost looks like a mustardy yellow. And that's crazy to me, because on most anything else, Everland Sunset is definitely like a deeper yellow. Let me see if I can find an example. Like, this guy is Everland Sunset, and the yellow is way brighter on his knee than it is on this guy. At least it feels like it. But that's okay. Speaking of, I repainted this guy. I didn't like the green emblems on him from, I guess, that second company? I don't remember. But, like, wow. Anyway. I think I chose the right army. I am so in love with the Gravis look of Imperial Fists. Heavy armor. Big gun. Yeah, as much as like some people want to shame Games Workshop for being overpriced and not good for their price, Everland Sunset is like the best yellow paint ever created. It's remarkably pigment dense for being a yellow. And I feel like I've been spoiled by it. Because like I said, I started with Everland Sunset as one of my key colors when I first started painting. So when I started painting Imperial Fists, I was using Averland Sunset, and the entire time soft servo was like, be careful, yellow is really hard to paint. It's really translucent and it doesn't really tend to go well. And then I start putting it on the guys, and it's not great, or it's not perfect, but it's definitely not giving me the crap that he said it would. And it's because Averland Sunsets are really good paint. Yeah, most yellows are garbage. One of my other friends, I got him an Army Painter starter box because it was cheap, and he wanted to get into Warhammer with us. And it came with, like, Army Painter Demonic Yellow. And oh my god. I understand that Army Painter was supposed to be the budget line, but their yellow is god-awful. It basically is just melted butter. And of course, then I started to see other yellows. I started to see what else people typically had to work with when they didn't have Averland Sunset. And it suddenly made me realize just how spoiled I was on it. I will say, Vallejo has an Averland Sunset equivalent. I think it is called Golden Yellow. And it's remarkably similar, but not quite as saturated, just because of how their model color line tends to work. But it's another one that gets really good coverage. So I will say I was impressed with not Army Painter, Vallejo. I was impressed with Vallejo's version of Averland Sunset. A little bit there. Okay, this is where things are gonna get manky. Because the last thing I want to do is make these edge highlights way too thickums. Hey, Swedish Muppet guy. Vallejo's Sun Yellow is Chef's Kiss. I've never used it before, and unfortunately, like I said, I'm kind of moving away from Vallejo, so I'm probably never going to get a chance to. But I will never ever dispute with anyone that Vallejo doesn't make damn good paints. Okay, we're going to go that way. We're going to go this way. We're going to go this way. It's really good, but I do agree Averland is amazing. Thank you. I mean, as far as I know, it's a good paint. As far as I can tell, it's a good paint. So I'm just gonna say it's a good paint. I'm still kind of in awe at how bright it is compared to everything else I've been working on. Again, Benry paints 80% of 80%. I get to be very, very light-handed with it on here. Okay. So I don't know how long you've been in the stream, but a miniature painter on YouTube that I feel like doesn't have anywhere near enough followers for how beautiful his work is, Philon Miniatures. He recently put out a video for doing like non-metallic metals in like 3 different levels of complexity. And it started giving me ideas on how I could better paint Garadon. And I've painted Garadon like 4. You're actually working on Ariel right now too. Might as well join the hobbying pile while watching you and Atsu. That's absolutely fair. I feel like that is a really good use of your time. But he did, Phelan Miniatures did a really good video on like doing non-metallic metals, and one thing he mentioned about trying to get the proper blend to make the reflections look good is you're basically doing 80% of 80% for every new layer. You don't want to completely cover a previous layer because then you kind of lose it. Don't have the energy to stream, but I'm there in spirit. That's fair. That's absolutely fair. That's, like I said, that's kind of in my thing, is like streaming has been just too exhausting for my brain. I don't have the spoons to stream, and so I'm trying to get back into the rhythm because I do enjoy it, and I feel like I was starting to get some momentum, but then, you know, the whole medical issue happened and all that momentum went crashing to a halt. So I've kind of got to rebuild my channel, which has been daunting. Didn't get great sleep the past couple nights. Last night, Callie tried to kill me by knocking the lamp on my nightstand over onto me. Ow! Our cat Tuna has done stuff like that, but it's mainly been just knocking things off to get our attention. And I usually keep my my headphones. I have a pair of Raycon headphones that my wife got me for Christmas a couple years ago. And I usually keep them on a nightstand next to a pile of clothes so that I can just grab them the next morning. And I went to go get them this morning and I couldn't find them. And so I'm looking around and I look down at my shoes, which are tucked underneath the dresser, and I see the little pink rose gold capsule for my Raycons in one of my shoes. And so I can just thank my lucky stars that my cat decided to knock my my Raycons into my shoes instead of on the hardwood floor where they most likely would have broke. She's trying to summon a BF, so she's rubbing on everything. Ah. That is an interesting problem to have. Thankfully not one I have. What has been really funny is that we have two cats. I think I've mentioned it before, and the new one is really pissing off the old one. Trixie I've had now for, I guess, about 6 years. And when I first got her, she was real prickly. And definitely didn't respond positively to overstimulation of any kind. And so she was really, you know, my own terms. But over the past couple years, she's become very affectionate. She's in heat, yeah. And so we kind of had a really good thing going. And then we adopted Tuna, who we found hiding under an engine block in a neighbor's yard. And Tuna has kind of put everything on its head because Tuna is a lot more rambunctious, a little bit bigger, and a lot younger. And so Trixie is just kind of beside herself with fury at how much Tuna is ruining the dynamic of the house. And it doesn't help that Tuna is also regularly stalking and attacking her. So she's become a lot more vocal, and she's become a lot more protective. And I think that's very silly. Though completely understandable. Poor girl. Ow! Just rolled my elbow. Nerve. Yeah, this is definitely getting the kind of contrast. Yeah, when we found Tuna, they could only guess that the poor guy was maybe 10 to 12 weeks old. And the best guess from everyone is that he had been abandoned. Like, someone's cat had had a litter, and they couldn't take care of them all, so they just dropped him off on the side of the road. Which sounds about right. And so he spent the first few weeks of his life just kind of scrounging around and hoping someone would notice. And eventually someone did. But because he had been an outdoor cat, we didn't want him interacting with our other pets because of, you know, diseases. So we locked him in our guest bathroom and just kind of hung out with him as often as we could, since it was in the summer months when I don't have to go to work and my wife works from home anyway, so it was all good. And that worked out fine. Eventually he was let out and everything was good. He was very, very happy to see us and was very sociable. But then he started like destroying things and just in general being a nuisance. And unfortunately, we didn't really have the correct tools for dealing with him emotionally. And I guess it made him very skittish. And so for a long time, especially around me, he was running away from me every time he saw me do anything because he thought I was going to chase him down and yell at him and this, that, and the other. And I kind of realized that it's not getting us anywhere except not getting me anywhere except making him scared of me. So I started trying to be a whole lot more patient with him and not responding immediately negatively when he does anything. And it's definitely calmed him down, and he's becoming increasingly affectionate by like the day around me. A couple weeks ago, he would very cautiously eat his lunch or dinner or breakfast or whatever as I watched over him to make sure he wasn't stealing food from the other cat. And now he kind of waits until I'm near him so that he can rub his head against my hands before he'll start eating. So clearly it just required a little bit of changing of behavior on my part. and realizing that the way I was trying to discipline him was not the right way to do it at all. And that made me happy, because I'd rather learn to do it the right way than be stubborn and think that he's broken or something. Okay, I have not been hitting this guy's, like, hip joint back here, or whatever this is, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Kinda forgot the dang thing existed. So yeah, I'm just happy and relieved that he seems to be increasingly happy in the house and increasingly comfortable. I think my favorite thing is now he's trying to make friends with the dog. I'm pretty sure Callie was dumped too. She was found under a coworker's car at approximately 3 to 4 months. Yeah, it's always unfortunate, but at the very least, you were there. So, you know, she got to have a very happy life instead. That's how I'm choosing to look at it. Once retrieved and brought inside the building, she was quite comfortable with the other humans. Yeah, that was the same with Tuna, is that he had no fear around other people. He wasn't running, he wasn't skittish, he wasn't overly submissive. When we were like holding him and moving him around, he just kind of would be very compliant, very pliant, and he would just kind of stare at us. But there was never anything like to indicate fear. The fear didn't start until I started getting mad at him for destroying things. So once again, very, very relieved that I learned to correct my own behavior before, as I tried to correct his behavior. You weren't really looking for a cat. Once it was sent a picture, I knew I had to take her. Exactly. That's how cats work. Speaking of, Soft Servo got a cat. He adopted a kitty. Who was actually, I think, a lot younger than Tuna. Very, very young. Very, very, very young. And his kids ended up naming her Pocky. And the way that they raised Pocky has made him incredibly trusting of people and incredibly affectionate. And I think that's super cool. I've had to house sit for them a few times while they went out to visit family and the like, and Pocky is an absolute gem. Once Pocky realized we were friendly, he was totally okay with us. And one of my favorite things about it was when we would get up to leave and whatnot, he was obviously curious, like, hey, where you guys going? Weren't we hanging out just a minute ago? And so he would follow us to the door, and apparently Pocky likes to get outside and play. I hit the camera again with my face. So what I ended up having to do was, as Pocky would, like, walk toward us and start rubbing against our legs, I would pick up Pocky and cradle him like a bowling ball, and then just kind of have to, like, scoot low and slide him across the kitchen floor so that we could get out of the door without him following us. So yeah, Pocky's a good bean. Though apparently Pocky has found their way up into the raised ceiling in the basement. When someone comes over, they hide for a little while, then eventually comes out to investigate. Yeah, well, I mean, that's fair. You're the one that you know, rescued and raised her, so she's going to trust you pretty implicitly. But that trust isn't going to extend to other people, right? Not yet. That'll be something learned. Okay. Let's see. Let's go ahead. Okay, I'm gonna have to do these feet off camera because there's too much glare and the angle I've got to hold it at. If they're lucky, she might let them touch their head. Yeah, that's really cool. Tuna is still very nervous around people, and my wife's parents visited a couple weekends ago to help us clear out some lawn debris, and they had previously met Tuna, and Tuna was very friendly with them. But I guess Tuna's become much more suspicious, and so when they came back over, Tuna wouldn't go near him. And so, like, her dad was, like, visibly disappointed that Tuna didn't want to hang out with him again. And it's just like, don't worry about it. Eventually we'll get him back to the point where he trusts people again, and everything will be okay, and he will be able to have kitten pets once more. Okay, so I am clearly, like, the right foot on him. The blending on this is clearly going bad places because I can't really see what I'm doing with how I've got to hold him for the camera to identify the model. So I think I'm going to give up on the right foot for a little bit And I'm going to go ahead and start working on the upper body. Oh, I didn't do the collar. Where did I stop on the collar? I did the top of the collar, but I didn't do this part. So I'm going to go ahead and increase the orange levels. Yeah, from what it looks like, I did orange mixed with the hull red. So now we're going to go to straight orange. And then we're going to go to orange golden sababa, orange golden yellow. And then hopefully that will allow me to catch back up. So yeah, have you ever had any like crazy donations on your own stream? Have you ever had someone come in and just be like, wow, I really like what you're doing. Here's a ton of money. On an unrelated note, you're still trying to decide what color to use for L'Oreal's dress. I wouldn't have the slightest clue. I have a very vague picture in my head of that model because I think I've looked at it once and I've seen a lot of the bug. You went with the turbo dork for the bug, right? Maybe you should do a solid color that would complement the turbo dork from the bug carapace. Maybe that would work. I should probably be doing this paint job with a nicer brush than this thing. But you know what? The tools don't make the painter. Okay, let's go ahead. 80% of 80% once more. I'm gonna go ahead. Get even less coverage there to get that nice transition. That actually is looking really sweet. Eventually I'll learn to make it look a little smoother, but right now it looks pretty darn good. Someone who's around often once threw you 10,000 biddies after hearing about me breaking my wrist out with the med bills. That was nice of them. Hopefully it did. I don't remember how much that translates to Ameribucks, but I think that's at least $100, isn't it? 10,000 bits? That was really nice of them. Unfortunately, I wasn't, that's the most insane thing you've gotten randomly. Well, I mean, if you ever need any validation that what you're doing is helping people, and that people enjoy what you're doing, I think monetary contributions is a pretty good example of it. You know what I mean? It's like my wife has that imposter syndrome whenever we go to cons, where she's like, am I actually doing anything? Am I actually helping people? Am I actually, you know, enriching people's lives with my art? And on one of the first cons I went to with her, my wife, by the way, is black. She's a person of color. And she does art that tries to show, you know, black people in spaces that traditionally you don't really see them in, which is, you know, like nerd spaces, video games and fantasy and the like. And there was a young girl that walked by who was just kind of minding her own business, looking around at the artist alley, and then she saw some of my wife's work and almost immediately broke down into tears because as I could hear her say through her sobs, they look like me. And she didn't have a huge amount of money, but she definitely ended up buying quite a bit from the stall because she was just so happy to see depictions of people like her in spaces where she doesn't really get to see that. Shouldn't compare myself to other streamers. Sometimes it's hard not to. I know, right? That's kind of the worst thing, is you look at some other people who may have started around the same time you did or are doing something similar to what you're doing, and you get to see their progress, and you're like, man, I wish I was there. Yeah, it's a huge reason why representation is important. I'm really happy that that wasn't the only time that happened either. It's happened again. But it makes me happy that it does, because it's really hard for her to doubt that what she's doing is important when she's getting such powerful emotional responses from people. And it's like, QB, You are literally moving people to tears. You can't. You're doing important things, and then that makes her feel better. But yeah, that kind of validation is nice. Now, the strangest thing I've ever gotten while streaming didn't actually end up happening because I didn't have anything set up for it, and I wasn't at a level yet where I like, you know, people could subscribe or whatever it was. I don't know how Twitch works, but I had someone show up. I'd say that's even bigger compliment than monetary. Yeah, you know, right? You can fake. You can. Some people. I don't want to say they can fake monetary rewards, but some people can definitely give money and not think too much about it. But if you can move someone to tears with your work, with what you've done, then you've really accomplished something, because that's not something they're in super control of, right? Like Anton Ego eating the ratatouille. Dude may have been a highfalutin elitist, but as soon as he had a taste of that comfort food, he was done. But the weirdest thing that happened to me, and what kind of led me to believe that I was starting to get somewhere, was during one of my streams before I don't know what I am. I don't know what the first level is that allows you to start making like money off of this. Affiliate, partner, I don't know. The first one, when you get like 100 followers. But that one, before I hit that, I was doing one of my regular streams and everything was going fine. And a dude pops in and says, hey, how do I donate? Like, what do you mean? He said, well, I really like what you're doing and I want to give you some money. And I said, do you have like a Ko-fi set up? Do you have a whatever? Yeah, thank you, affiliate. I was like, no, sorry, I don't. And he's like, well, I paint models, but I don't have time, and I make a lot of money, and I really like what you're doing, and I think the models you're doing look amazing. And so, first of all, I want to give you a ton of money so you can buy more models, and I want you to paint my models. And so I just about lost it, because this was like 3 months into streaming, and so after he gave me like his email address, and I contacted him to say, hey, this has been Repaints, and this is just me testing to make sure that the email address works and that you know it's me. And I got a message back from him saying like, okay, cool, you'll hear from me again. And I set up a Ko-fi and all that fun stuff. And then I never heard from him again. And it was like, oh, okay, I guess that's fine. I wasn't about to get a sugar daddy for mini painting or anything. I wasn't about to go on retainer. It's all good. But yeah, that's been by far the most intense thing that's happened to me in terms of like monetary gains on this website, or on this streamy thingy. Yeah. I kind of felt that way as we were talking. And since I haven't heard back from him since, other than thinking about it every now and then, I really don't think about it. It's not like a lost opportunity. I will say, what was kind of cool was one time when I was streaming, I managed, like, Gear Guts Mech Shop appeared in my stream. I was like, hey, cool, what you up to? And, you know, asked questions and chatted for a bit. And if you don't know Gear Guts Mech Shop, he's like one of the biggest independent creators of like bits and bespoke like Warhammer proxy models for orcs in the game. And it's like, at the time I wasn't putting two and two together. It's like, Gear Guts, I know that name. Who is this Gear Guts? And then he showed me he was making a custom I forgot what they're called. They're the giant orc mechs that were only in Apocalypse. Not the Gargant. Bigger than that. Not the Gorkanaut. Those things are way too small. I don't remember the name, but it was only ever made for like Epic 40K. And he was making his own bespoke version of it in one of the 3D rendering programs. And so it just blew my mind that he had, you know, hopped into my tiny little stream to say, hey, how's it going? And then I looked him up later and realized, oh, I've bought STLs from this guy. That was kind of cool. I've got to find a new place for this camera because I keep knocking it with my my baseball or with my head. Unfortunately, I'm still using my cell phone camera, and it's not great for zooming in and whatnot since it's all digital zoom, but I'm making it work. Okay. 80% of 80%. Don't need a lot, just enough to say that there is a highlight. That'll work. Yeah, I've got it. Well, I've got it hanging right over my head right now. I've rearranged where I've put it because I've had it in places where it almost worked. Like I had it hanging from a ceiling joist, but I had to zoom it in at like 400%. And so like manually focusing the model became a bother. And a little while ago I moved it over to the side, but it was just way too close and I kept hitting it with my brush. And so I moved it again and everything was kind of okay. And then I moved it again and that's where it is now. And I'm basically hitting it with my forehead every now and then because I can't zoom in with it too much. But if I put it back any further, the picture is going to be really out of focus or really grainy because it's doing like a digital zoom. So I'm trying to make it work. My eventual goal is to get like a Sony wireless or a Sony mirrorless camera and hook that thing up for doing streaming, and also get a decent portable mirrorless camera for, you know, going places. Because right now I've got a really old Pentax that doesn't have an HDMI port, and so while the camera's still great and runs like a dream, I can't use it for streaming, which kind of stinks. But that's what I get for going with Pentax. Okay, I forgot what I was working on. It's happening again. I think elbow. I'm slowly going through and highlighting with the elbow. I'm gonna do that part right there. That part right there. Okay, whoops, gonna go back and hit that so that way I have some of that gone. Just gonna keep repeating that mantra to myself. 80% of 80%. Okay, same with up here just a little bit. Nothing too drastic. Okay. You use a webcam, it also doubles as your mic. Yeah, when I started, that's what I was doing. I think... What the heck was I using when I first started? I think I have a set of like earbuds that have a mic in them, and I was just kind of using that. But after working with Soft Servo, who's definitely a sound guy, I realized that I hated how that sounded. Because we had done these ridiculous Muppet videos for virtual school during the pandemic, and so he kind of taught me about audio fidelity and whatnot. So I realized I wanted to have good audio. You stream art from your laptop and everything else on your PC. That's pretty cool. That's what I need to do. I need to get myself a better PC. I bought a fairly expensive gaming laptop like 4 years ago, and it's still pretty good for what it's doing. I'm actually running my entire stream setup off of that right now. But it's showing its age just a smidgen. And I decided I didn't want to just use a like a webcam mic or a mic from like a set of headphones. And so I bought a Razer Siren Mini. You wonder if your sound can be better? It is fine. Your voice definitely comes through pretty clear. If you want to be real audio nerd about it, there is some echo because you're obviously not in a soundproof room that's acoustically meant to be done for recording. but you've got one thing down, which is really hard to nail, and that's having like clarity. I don't think at any point I had a hard time understanding what you were saying. And that's always kind of the problem. Like, I know my voice is a little deeper, and I speak a little quickly, and that causes my voice to get muffled in on itself. But yeah, do you have a any kind of sound dampening, acoustic dampening around your microphone? Because that's something I bought when I bought my mic. I bought a Razer Siren Mini because I read that it was a good cheap mic that lacked a lot of the high-end features that most really good mics have, but it did just enough, or like it was still good enough for high quality audio. And so I bought that, and when I did, I bought a microphone arm, like an articulated one, and I worked with that for a while, and it was fine, but it still had that tinny echo that you get from the acoustics traveling. So I bought a portable sound booth that screwed into it, and that was only like 20 bucks. And my understanding, at least from listening to it, is that the portable sound booth improved the fidelity of my audio by a tremendous amount. And now I sound half decent. And I've been trying to convince my wife to get one because she's getting back into art streaming. And I feel like, while her audio's okay because she's got a high quality mic, she does have a little bit of reverb going on because her mic is just kind of sitting on her desk. So I'd like to help her get a better mic so her audio sounds better. Got on sale for Amazon for $80 or something. Cool, cool, cool. Your mic has the shield thing with it. Okay, so no, you do have a the shield thing in front of it. That is a pop filter so that your P's don't sound so harsh on the mic. Portable sound booth kind of looks like a cowling that goes around the back. If you want, I can also send you a picture of that, or an Amazon link for that, because they're really inexpensive and they really improve the sound quality a lot. Okay, that's about as good as that's going to get until it has time to dry. Then when it has time to dry, I can go back over it. Yeah, I always forget about pop filters. At least the names of pop filters. Okay. 80% of 80. 80% of 80. Yeah, this really is standing out a whole lot more. I'm digging this. You know, it makes all the difference. I also watch the Game Grumps a lot. And something that the Game Grumps really emphasized when they started, and I wasn't aware of it, was having really, really good audio quality. So Aaron always made sure to have like the best mic he could afford whenever they upgraded equipment or whatever. That was no good. And it definitely plays out. You used to do internet radio, so that probably helps. Yeah, definitely. Any kind of experience is going to be good for you with that. I hit the thing again. Panel line that. But yeah, that's something I need to be a little bit better about. I kind of need to upgrade my setup. I want to upgrade my setup a little more. I don't need to. And the biggest thing, like I said, is I want to get a better freaking camera. The cell phone camera is obviously doing fine, but I'd like to do more than fine. I'd like to do fantastic. I'd like to have crystal clear picture with proper white balance and all that other stuff. You know, blah, 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 blah. There we go. Backpack is coming together. This is probably my favorite thing about doing non-metallic metal highlights and all this kind of layering, is that as you go up, your layers become smaller. So you really don't have to do as much work for each one. What do you think of the picture quality from the art stream? It seemed to be pretty okay. I think the only issue I had with it was that, obviously the camera angle was could be better, because doing camera angles with mini painting is a weird, eternal fight. At least it has been for me. Because there were times where you'd pull the model in close to do detail work, and I'd see his butt, and that'd be it. But I think it's just because of the angle that you have to have the camera at. That was the only thing I would say that could use some adjusting. Outside of that, your setup seemed to be doing fine. Well, I mean, it's really hard to look at your model and also look at what your camera's doing. I think I got real lucky because I clearly bought all of my equipment when I had more money. So I was definitely able to take advantage of that and get enough articulated arms. Especially when your laptop is to your left. Yeah, that'll do it. Okay. Oh yeah, the front. Go ahead. Bit of lining. I just got pinged. I get the feeling that my wife is done with her game. It's almost bedtime. Because I'm baby and I need to go to bed early. Okay. Also, one moment. How far back? How far back? Swedish Muppet Guy. I'm pretty darn pleased that my stream is chill enough that you can go to sleep to it. I'm taking that as one of the largest one of the greatest compliments I could receive, because the whole point of my stream is to be a chill place for you guys to relax. And that's actually become one of my favorite things, is that every now and then when the anxiety bug hits, or when my wife is struggling to fall asleep, she'll just roll over and say, "Benry, tell me a story." And it can be about anything. Half the time she'll ask me to tell her about Warhammer. And the whole reason is that for her, my voice is apparently so soothing that just listening to me ramble incoherently is enough to help her drift off. So I think that's a cool feature that my brain has, or that my voice has going for it. And I will choose to take that as a compliment. Okay, yeah, we're going to use some of this as a watered down wash to help with that transition. Same with here. We're going to use a little bit of that watered down orangey yellow to smooth the transition here. Do the same there. And everywhere else, it looks like it's doing okay. Mix that in there. Grab some of that. Water that down a heck of a lot. Run it across here to get most of that moisture out. Apparently some people think about the same about your voice. Yeah, you have a very gentle aura to your voice, and I think that's really cool. I think, and I understand why, because some people want to be thoroughly entertained and they want to, you know, be pulled into it. But I feel like with some of the VTuber stuff and some of the Twitch stuff, is people feel the need to be bombastic. And so they're really forcing it with their voice. And it's like, cool, I'm glad you have that personality, but that's not me. I'm too tired. Okay, so now this guy has a layer of just straight Averland Sunset on top of a dark red, then an orange mixed in, then orange and Averland Sunset, and now Averland Sunset in reduced amounts. And I love the fact that his armor looks like it's melting or it's on fire. That's really cool. I love how this looks. He is going to stand out on the tabletop. before he gets blown off the table by a Tau railgun. Oh, man. Great character. Terrible defense on him. So I'm going to continue working on him probably tomorrow, probably not on stream, but it's like 10:10, so I think it's time for me to get going. So thank you guys for joining me. I do appreciate it. I hope the stream was nice and relaxing for you. I can't wait to paint his face. One of my favorite things about poor Garadon is the fact that his face is so freaking stupid. Let me see if I can find it before we go anywhere. Before I go anywhere, I don't know if I have the picture on here, but the first time I ever painted a Garadon face, I screwed up, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I ended up making him a little bug-eyed, and I made him a lot more jowly than he's supposed to be. So my first ever Garadon face just looks like it's screaming for bacon. And so let me see if I can find it real quick, because I know I've got it saved somewhere. But yeah, the second time I painted him, he ended up looking fantastic. I got a whole lot better at painting faces, so he just ended up looking better. But I need to find the original Garadon I painted. I need to make that, like, not necessarily my profile picture, but definitely something along those lines. Because it just makes me so happy. I really need to separate and sort my Warhammer pictures. Because I've been, you know, as I've mentioned before, big into the keeping of my stuff to see my progress. I just have an unholy gaggle of Warhammer stuff on here. When did I get Garadon? Was I a mad lad? Did I actually buy Garadon? Or was it the second time I painted him? Because that first one actually looks pretty good. It must have been the second time. Yeah, I'm glad you were able to come and hang out too. I definitely appreciate you showing up at these streams. It's nice to have, I don't want to call it a regular, but just seeing a familiar face. That's how I'm gonna put it. Okay, it's not in there. I might not have it anymore. I could have sworn I did, because he just looks like he's wheezing out the word bacon. And that's funny to me. Oh no, Mr. Garadon. Is Garad gone? Apparently. Date. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just going to hold him and spin him very slowly, I suppose. Yep, it definitely did that. There's Lysander. There was some Victrix Honor Guard I painted for Soft Servo. Yeah, I've got so many pictures on here. Yeah, I don't know where it is. I'll find it eventually. Regardless, thank you again for joining me. Pics of the first Alariel. Yeah, I'd love to see that. Just because it's this... I love keeping these old pictures because it's just such a great reminder of how far you've grown, right? One of my favorite things about this hobby is just knowing that you're getting better. Regardless of if you think you are. You may still think that, you know, oh, I'm still so far behind, I've still got so far to go. But then you look at some of your old pictures and you realize that you have improved leaps and bounds in ways that you're not even noticing. I actually had that moment today because one of the VTubers I follow, Doigan Swift, they do a community day, right? And during their community day, they know I do the mini painting, so they I guess enjoy seeing the commissions that I do. And for one of them, for today, I went ahead and put out Mortarion, since I repainted him recently. And to give them a sense of scale, I put a human monk and a D20 next to the base to show them how big it is. And the human monk was one of the first things I ever painted. So he clearly doesn't look that refined compared to what I can do now. So I'm going to put... You did Morathi years before Diablo Core, but you could be better now that I improved. I think the best part about it is if you really want to, you can go back and just touch her up. You don't need to repaint her entirely or strip her or anything, but just paint her again. So yep, there it is. There's my Mortarion, and there is a human monk that I painted back when I first started this hobby. And you can see there's just a whole nother level of like detail and just skill compared to the two. And I also love how much it drives home how big Mortarion is, because they're both in the same scale. I went ahead and looked it up, but both Warhammer and D&D are printed and put on 28mm scale. So, in comparison, Mortarion is now like that much bigger than an average human being. Your display cabinet at this point is a timeline of your progress with each piece that you add, and that's the coolest thing. Is it's going to be that whether you want it to or not. It is unless you absolutely stop progressing, you're going to get better every time. And again, I just think it's neat. It's a great concrete example of your progress. But anyway, like I said, I got to get going. I shouldn't have dragged that out as long as I did, but thank you again for joining me. I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. I'm going to go ahead and raid someone. Is Atsu still going? Because I think I'm going to go ahead and raid Atsu. Atsu's still going, so okay, Atsumori Kofuhara. So let's go ahead and raid Atsu. /raid Atsumori, no, not Atus, Atsumori Kofuhara. Yeah, okay. So we're going. Okie dokie. 3 viewers are ready to raid. Fantastic. Have a good evening. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later.